Hi, I'm Ryan Davis,
And I'm Kiernan Schmidt.
and this is Out of Office, a travel podcast.
This seat taken.
Hey, Kiernan.
Hello, Ryan. How you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. How are you?
I have to say the weather has not turned here in New England quite yet. We're still like rainy and in the 50s, but you do feel those Memorial Day vibes just starting. You're getting the summer travel bug is starting to tickle.
Are you? Do you have Memorial Day travel plans?
For Memorial Day, we're staying local, but we've got travel plans over the next few months. We've got a trip out to the Hamptons, and in fact, the Hamptons almost made it to my list today because we're going to cover. I mean, this is a good summer Memorial Day episode because we're doing beach mode. We're each going to share three of our favorite beaches that we visited.
Yes, this is going to be fun, and I think we've mixed it up to hit beaches all around the world.
Yeah,
So,
and to tie it back to my summer plans is we're gonna go. I almost included the Southampton beach, which is called Cooper's Beach, which is regularly on like best of the world beach lists. But then I thought that's people know about that. Let's do some more interesting ones. So we're doing a trip down to the Hamptons. We're taking late in the summer. We're going to a beach area on the Great Lakes, which we'll go to Chicago and then we'll drive up to there. It's sort of like I mean I've heard it's kind of like an undiscovered beach lake area, but then when I talk to my friends in like Michigan and Illinois, they're all like, "Oh yeah, we all go there. That's where like the moneyed people flee to. That's their Hamptons." So I'm very excited to check that out. I've been reading about this spot for a long time and wanting to go. Let's see, we're going to the Connecticut shore with my family. Actually, I'm realizing this is like a really beach-filled summer for me.
have you been to the Vineyard?
Do you know I've never been to Martha's Vineyard? Have you?
Wow. No, I've been waiting for Barack to invite me, but nothing. Not a thing. Not a
I mean,
thing.
maybe sometime when you're up here, we could like take a trip out there and do an overnight. Because at Martha's Vineyard nor Nantucket, I've never, I'm more of a Block Island sort of. That's my tier in society is Block Island.
Working your way up to the Vineyard.
When I was in the Boy Scouts, we used to do a whole week camping out in Block Island. It was awesome. We'd do like summer beach afternoons, and then we'd bike all over the island and we'd camp at night.
I love you as a Boy Scout.
I loved me as a Boy Scout too. And
Yeah.
I once when I was like in the gear closet that the quartermaster oversaw, I once found one of those old classic like Norman Rockwell Boy Scout hats where it's not a baseball cap, but it's like that little, almost looks like those like paper hats that diner workers wear, but with the Boy Scout insignia. Oh, I used to rock that baby. I loved it with my merit badges. It was a beautiful thing.
Didn't you and I see that Wes Anderson movie together?
Oh yeah, Moonrise Kingdom.
Yeah,
that brought me back.
Yeah.
And of course, Ryan, you've got the expertise on the beach side because you grew up a beach boy.
I know. We're going to talk a bit about that on this episode. I'm. Oh
my God! Are you going to turn this into an Ocean City, Maryland episode, like our third one?
It's got to get a shout out, but
I feel like at this point we've got more Ocean City than Boston episodes. That's really saying something.
Second only to Mark Adams, but yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Speaking of which, it is okay. So for those who don't know, Ryan loves bringing in this deep cut Mark Adams. Mark Adams is a travel author. Famously wrote a Machu Picchu book that like every American heading to Peru reads. It's really funny. He's a great travel writer. But man, oh man, and he was our first guest on Out of Office ever, he took a leap of faith in us, and we will never forget that. But I've been waiting for a new Mark Adams book for a really long time. I want to get him back on the show. I want to promote it here. Hungry to hear what he's up to, and I've been getting nada.
Well, let's say he's got to get a new book out. I am aiming. I have a really exciting guest for October. I'm not going to say who it is yet, but
Can you give
It's
a hint or at least like what the topic area is
the
going to be?
topic is traveling for graveyards, which I think is
Ooh, okay. So
perfect.
you're going to get a
Yeah.
ghost.
I'm gonna get somebody who knows ghosts. Absolutely. Absolutely.
All
Yeah.
right. Well, Ryan, I don't want to neglect the Judy alert because this is the segment that's most important to your mother, our most loyal listener, Judy, because, you don't keep that in great touch, occasionally what a Christmas card. And so she's always fearful that, where's Ryan? Is he in Turkmenistan?
A
Is he
Christmas email. A Christmas
and
email. You know.
in recent episodes you've been in places where there's cartel violence, and we're all on the edge of our seat for what I like to call the Judy alert. So where you sound like you're on a secure internet line today. So are you safe, and where are you?
Yeah, I'm in my my Bogota apartment here in the lovely neighborhood of Nagao, and yeah, but I am heading out next week for my yearly trip to Tampa to hang out with all my friends from high
Oh,
school,
sure.
and then up to see my mom in Ocean City, which we're going to talk about probably today in the beaches.
And
So
are you heading up anywhere near my way while you're here?
no, I'm not going to even make it up to New York. So
Oh boy.
I wanted to, but it wasn't anything I needed to see on Broadway. So I was like,
Ugh, tell me about it. It's dry out there. There is not much going on in Broadway. I have a good friend who he plays keyboard in the pits of The Lion King. And
ah,
I mean he's been in tons of Broadway shows,
yeah,
and we were just talking about that. He's like, yeah, these giant shows, they sit in the theaters for like 30 years. I saw Lion King when I was in middle school.
yeah. I mean, that's Lion King is going to run until you and I are no longer on the earth, probably.
Oh,
So
and I have to believe that Hamilton will eventually spill into 2-3 theaters that are just Hamilton all the time.
yeah, and I feel like Hamilton's culturally peaked a while ago, but it's
Something
yeah.
tells me that the ticket sales are doing just fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's yeah, but you can get in. You know.
Sure. Okay. Well, yes. That makes sense. It's been 12 years, something like that.
Yeah, it's been a while. There's a new musical that's supposed to be sort of the Latino Hamilton called Mexodus,
Ooh,
which
what's
is
that about?
yeah, it's about the era when enslaved people in the United States would escape south of the border to freedom, and but it's done in sort of like a Latino hip hop kind of way, and it's
Boy,
supposed to be
that's
kind of
interesting.
fun. Yeah, yeah. So I
Honestly, I was skeptical of these like history based shows that were just trying to recreate Hamilton, but there's actually been quite a few good ones. There were before Hamilton, I think, was Bloody Bloody Andrew Jackson, which was only okay in my opinion because they did
yeah,
like
but
emo. That wasn't really my type. But then Six came after, which is the Wives of Henry VIII, which I thought, is that really going to work? I thought it worked great. And I'm very open to more. I like this genre.
yeah, I like the genre too. Even before that, there was this MLK musical that was done in sort of a jazz rock style by my friend Aryan, who's best known as like the BC dude on Secession. Um, and he had a theater company back in the day, and he did this amazing musical all about MLK's life that I would love to see come back. So I think history musicals can be great. I mean, Les Mis is I think also sort of a history musical in its own way.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
but if
fair.
we talk about musical
A
theater too much,
different
people
style.
are
Yeah,
tuning
people. I
out.
can hear the radios clicking
Yeah,
off. So
no
um,
politics, no musical theater. That those are the rules when you're at dinner with
we,
people.
we we
So
love hearing no politics. We get that frequently on our reviews. And speaking of reviews, Ryan, before we take off and head to the beach, I do want to just spotlight 2 reviews that have come in recently on Apple. We do like to look across the platforms. We greatly appreciate when people take the time to give us 5 stars and to give us feedback, suggest shows that they're interested in. And we've got one from a guy named Ken Face. Ken Face. And Ken Face gave 5 stars. He said, good fix for some serious wanderlust. Ryan and Kieran's Out of Office podcast is a perfect fix for my always dreaming of travel brain. I enjoy the structure of the podcast banter, substance, extras. This guy gets it. But, people complain about that in the other reviews, but this guy gets it. And the humor woven throughout. A third witty, a third silly, and a third awkward.
only a
the
third awkward.
Well, wait until we get to the next review. They have
Yeah.
some thoughts on that too. The analogies of prepare for takeoff and the last stop keep the theme of the podcast, and when it's time, I find myself reciting it along with them. So thank you very much for that, Ken Face. And the other, which I find very funny, is by somebody named Shorty Cool. Love the banter, has 5 stars as well. And here's the bit I liked the most. I love the banter between these two, despite Kieran. Despite Kiernan's obvious obsession with Ryan's sexuality and his strange desire for Judy's attention and affection. But all jokes aside, I listen to the podcast even when I'm not interested in the location they're covering because these two definitely bring the funny. Thank you very much for that, Shorty Cool. I think obsession might be a little bit of an overstatement, but
Yeah.
Ryan, I grew up in a real Catholic bubble. And, we all know there's no gays in Catholicism, right, Ryan? So you were the first person who I met who was like, hey, let's go to Boxers down the street, which is a gay bar and a gay chain in New York City. And it was sort of my first view into this whole other world that Ryan lives in. And I'm almost like an anthropologist when I'm with him.
Yeah, I remember how wide your eyes were when you saw the bartenders at Boxers for the first time.
It's just a world I don't understand. And this is why we love travel too. Just opening ourselves to learning and new opportunities. And so I later came to find out Ryan was testing to see whether I was gay.
Well, yeah,
and you, because I'm straight, you've gotten past that. So how about the obsession with that? Why isn't that noted in any of the reviews?
I know a lot of straight people. Not that interesting.
All right. Well, I don't think we're going to any gay beaches or nudist beaches in this particular. Though I don't know Ryan's list, so perhaps you'll take us to some interesting gay nightlife here.
Yeah, I'll touch on that briefly, but I think it's time to take off.
Tell the cabin crew.
Flight attendants, prepare for takeoff, please.
All right, Ryan. So, as we've established, you grew up you really grew up in a beach location. So, the rhythms of like a seaside town.
Yeah, and that's actually the town I'm going to start with, Ocean City, Maryland, which is a classic mid-Atlantic beach town. With the really long boardwalk that has arcades and those old school games where you like have to throw the frog into a hole and you win. Like you're at a carnival, and just endless seafood restaurants. Huge line of beaches. And that's what I wanted to kick off with because I feel like my other choices are sort of less Americana. But when I think about, what is that classic mid-Atlantic experience where you're going to play miniature golf, in a dinosaur themed mini golf?
Oh yeah, that sounds great.
Yeah, and then you're going to go and eat these incredible French fries on the boardwalk after you spend a day on the beach. And Ocean City brings all that sort of like classic family energy. And then at night, a good town to have some drinks and party at.
And did you find, like, as a local, would you go to all the beach stuff during the nicer weather? Like, would you go year round, or do you guys like go, after Labor Day, it kind of thins out? And what time of year do you recommend the most for this?
Yeah. So as a kid, we went, my grandparents retired from Baltimore and they bought a little beach house. And so we would go visit them a couple times a year during the summer. And it's a traditional summer weather. So if you want to have, you want it to be hot, you want to go in like May, June, July, August. Even September is a good time to go because it's still warm and the water is kind of almost at its warmest. But the city itself has done a really good job in extending sort of the calendar by having these huge beach concerts now. They have two. They have one that's sort of focused on 90s rock and roll where you can see like Everclear, and then they have one that's a country version of that. So they're constantly sort of extending the travel window. But if you want the real like beach experience where you're bringing like a a lunch and you're bringing your chairs and your blankets and you're setting up early. That's best during the peak summer months.
And what's the wildlife situation here? Do you get is there like dune? Are there like protected dunes? Do you get interested? Do you ever get sharks? I'm going to talk a little bit about sharks making their way up into New England recently. I'd imagine they must come near Maryland.
Yeah, there have been occasional shark sightings, every couple years, and people clear the beach, but they don't get that close to the shore. The wildlife situation that I think is sort of the secret one is this national park, or it's a state park, excuse me, called Assateague Island. And what's really cool about this place is they have all these feral horses that live there. So you
Wow,
can
that's
go,
amazing. I do not associate that. To me, that always makes me think of like the Outer Banks.
yeah, they've had feral horses there for, I think, hundreds of years. They were released by some kind of like random rancher, and then they just kept, their horses, so they breed. And yeah, and there's so many of them that every year they have to kind of catch a bunch of them, and then kind of, I guess, domesticate them, and so every year they kind of like capture some of these horses.
Oh
But
wow.
it's pretty fun because you go set up on the beach, and then you can be sitting there, and they have signs all around like, keep your coolers closed, because the
Because
horses
the
smell.
horses will come.
Yeah, the horses will
Oh
come.
my
They smell.
god.
They smell a hamburger. They're like, that's better than what I'm eating now, and they're kind of like head over. And
Wow.
yeah, yeah. So Assateague Island is really a cool special place. It's probably like a 20-minute drive out of Ocean City, and Ocean City, when you're at the beach, you're at the beach. You're either in front of the boardwalk or in front of a hotel. You go to Assateague Island, that's where you're in its only protected wildlife space, and then the dunes, and it's a much quieter, more relaxing experience. So, I always recommend, if you want to do a classic beach day, do the Ocean City beach. And if you want to do a more quiet, kind of family oriented day where you're going to see these wild horses, you're going to see a lot of fun birds and stuff, that's where you kind of take the trip out to Assateague. You pay the $5 to get into the park, and then you kind of get to experience sort of the weirdness of the wild horses walking around watching you watching you swim.
Boy, it sounds unique. I definitely will bring my hardest core cooler.
Yes, you definitely want to pack up that cooler, make sure that those horses are not getting inside there. And then obviously at night, hit the boardwalk. Get the French fries, get the pizza. You're not gonna eat healthy when you're in Ocean City, but that's not the point when you're on a beach vacation, I don't think. So yeah, and then Ocean City is right on the coast, so you can go a little bit north and get up to those quieter Delaware beaches, which are quite lovely and sort of less touristy. So it's really just it's just a line of beaches that it really begins up in New Jersey and keeps going down to the Outer Banks.
And we'll throw a link in the show notes for those who are interested in a deeper dive into Ocean City, because Ryan has done what proved to be quite a popular episode about Ocean City specifically.
Yeah, well, yeah, it was Maryland's Eastern Shore. I extended it. But one thing I will say is I actually grew up, 30 miles from Ocean City, so I didn't live there. But for a couple years, we lived at what you like to call the beach house.
Yeah, your beach house. I
Yeah,
always know you're going to talk about I figured that would come up.
yeah, and that's actually on the Chesapeake Bay, not on the Atlantic Ocean, and a little and when I say a little town called Dames Quarter, I mean like 80 people live there.
Oh wow.
Yeah. And they have a couple kind of publicly available beaches, but it's mostly private homes with private beach access. This is not like luxury beach the way that Kieran thinks of it. He's imagining his friends in the Hamptons or something. This is a much different kind of vibe.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
but
I mean, it's nice to hear that little enclaves like that still exist and haven't been like blown out and developed and ruined.
Yeah, no, I think that it's just not convenient enough to really become a serious tourist destination. Um, but it has a fascinating history. If you allow me to want to call out one place, called Henry's Beach, and Henry's Beach is in Dames Quarter. In the 1920s and 30s was an incredibly popular destination for Black folks from around the Delmarva area. And they built a massive, at that time, a very big hotel, which is now defunct, like abandoned.
Mhm.
And they would have all sorts of, pretty famous like jazz and blues performers come. And so, families had a safe space to come and have a really good time. And then at night, the kids would go to bed, and the adults would hang out and listen to music and dance. And by the time that I lived there, the hotel was already abandoned. But it's just fascinating to imagine that it was such a hotbed of culture for that community over the years. So yeah, that's Ocean City, Maryland kind of beach area, and definitely a place that I would recommend for a quick, easy weekend getaway. It's only a 4 hour drive from New York, so not too bad.
Very cool.
What is your first beach?
Yeah, so I decided on my first one to also stay fairly local and American. And actually, I think just quickly glancing down the list, these are going to be our last non-international. So these are the only American beaches that we're talking about is your Ocean City. And then, I was tempted to talk about Cape Cod. I actually think Cape Cod would be a great episode for us to do separately. And, given that I'm based in the Boston area, Cape Cod is a place that we get down to, but to be honest, I find Cape Cod to be a very daunting place to visit because so many people head that way, and there is a single bridge that it all comes down to. And during the great weather for Cape Cod, for visiting Cape Cod, the traffic becomes so egregiously horrible that it really makes you wonder, is this worth it? And so, where Catherine and I like to go is we go to the northern shore above Boston in the sort of Gloucester and Ipswich area. And there's a whole string of northern shore Massachusetts beaches that we've just had amazing times at. And so I'll give you a couple of the names of the ones that we particularly like. There's a few others out there. They are, I will say, they at most they're kind of like 5 miles of beach and individual beaches, so you don't get like the humongous like everlasting stretches of beaches that you get in places like California. Even Rhode Island has some beaches that can feel that way, but they're super swimmable. They're incredibly family friendly. They don't have, what's interesting about your Ocean State recommendation is you've got the boardwalk and sort of the kitschy Americana cultural stuff,
Yeah.
the haunted houses and miniature golf and all that.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
I find these Northern Shore Massachusetts beaches, they feel more in touch with nature. Many of them are next to nature preserves, and they have nonprofits that are protecting the areas for different birds and for like the dunes. And so here's the name of some of them because I'm sure they'll be unfamiliar. Crane Beach, Wingersheek Beach, which is just to spell it because it's a little odd. It's like a Dutch. It's like a German take on a Dutch name, and so it's gone through a lot of different changes. Wingersheek Beach. Plum Island, which is a small sliver of an island. Catherine and I did a trip out there 2 years ago. Had a great time, and they have really nice beaches and a lot of great seafood there. And then I love the name of this one because it goes really against the idea of a nice beach vacation. Coffins Beach, but it's just named for a farmer who used to have a farm close to this beach. So it
That's
has
an
nothing to do with that.
unfortunate name.
I
Yeah,
like
yeah.
it. It's very Puritan Massachusetts, Coffins Beach. These are just great, natural, beautiful, really nice, fine sand beaches. A little less sceney than Cape Cod. Certainly, if you're heading up there at 10 a.m. on a beautiful summer weekend, you're going to get the same traffic. You do have to book parking in advance if you're like not a regular pass holder. But Catherine and I found that if you look within early in the week that you want to go the following weekend, you can still get in. It's not like preventatively small. And we've headed up there driving in at like 8 a.m. and it's been just fine. I mean, the reason I'm going on about this crowd control stuff is because New England beaches, they do suffer for the fact that you're so close to New York, to Boston, to like central areas that tons of people flee to the shore every weekend. So you do have to kind of game it. And that's why I think Northern Shore Massachusetts beaches are a great recommendation. Plum Island has tons of great Airbnbs that you can rent out, really charming shore houses. Um, there's also, though it doesn't have the kind of kitschy boardwalk culture, there's a very cool attraction in Ipswich that I want to call out, which is called Wolf Hollow. And Wolf Hollow is a preserve for North American gray wolves. And you can actually take a tour there and see their docents interact with these protected wolves that are right there. And again, you're like 1 mile from the beach. It's a really cool special thing there. And there's lots of these nature preserves. If you want to get out and hike, you can really build a whole week exploring these beaches and doing those sort of more nature oriented cultural visits as well. And
Gosh,
I,
you know what's amazing is I don't think I've ever been to a Massachusetts beach before. I feel like my Massachusetts visits are always pretty much centered on Boston.
Yeah, I
Um,
mean, it's you do have to make an effort to get there. I mean, like of course there are public ways to get to these places, but they're not super accessible without a car. So I'm not surprised you haven't. It would be really fun if you came to visit. We could do one of these trips out there. And by the way, I love Cape Cod too. It's just that it's packed with people. And it's you can get a similar, slightly more laid back experience on the Northern Shore. But if you've never been to New England beaches, Ryan, Cape Cod's still a great place to hit up as well.
I recall a really terrific movie that's probably about a decade old now called Manchester by the Sea.
Oh yeah, sure. Yep,
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
around this area.
yeah. So that's sort of the vibes that I get when I think about the Massachusetts beaches.
Um, and I brought up sharks for Maryland. This is something that's like still, when I was growing up, and we used to go to a beach in Connecticut quite a lot during the summer. I never remember any warnings about sharks. But as the oceans are warming, a lot of the small fish that great white sharks eat are migrating into the New England area, and so you do actually have these like shark alerts going on now, and we're really getting better at watching out for them and warning when folks are swimming, because most of our beaches are very swim friendly, very family friendly. But that is kind of a new weird thing that we're dealing with on our beautiful New England beaches.
Is Jaws is in Massachusetts or no? Am I making that up?
Yeah, Jaws is in Massachusetts, but really like out in the ocean. Like they're not like on the shore looking for Jaws.
Oh yeah, okay. So it was shot in Martha's Vineyard.
Yeah, it's
Interesting.
here.
Yeah,
It's here. It's that they're getting just closer and closer to shore.
yeah, yeah. That's scary. Sharks are kind of scary.
Shark. The hot take.
Yeah. Have you ever gone diving?
No, never gone diving.
Me either. I'd be interested to do that one day. I'm always too lazy to do like the hours of work you have to do.
Well,
You know
for
me.
me, it's that I tend not to take beach vacations. Like I'll be highlighting places where we've gone to a beach within a bigger cultural exploration. But to me, like laying on the beach in the sun, I don't know. Like I feel that I can do that in the summer here without traveling thousands of miles to do it. And so to me, like you have to go to one of these places. If you're going to be diving, you're probably taking a vacation like that and adding it in. And it's just not, I tend to be more of a like, let's go city, let's go theater, let's go museums kind of traveler.
Yeah, yeah, no, I hear you. And I tend to, because I grew up on a beach where you had to bring everything with you, and it was like a hassle to do beach day. You had to, find parking, and then you had to lug like the cooler and a bunch of chairs and all this stuff. And so as an adult, I like beaches where you just show up and they have everything for you.
Oh,
So
I'm going to have one like that for sure.
yeah, yeah.
All right. So what's your second one, Ryan?
So my second one is I'm gonna actually say the best beach that I've ever been to.
Oh,
And
all right.
this is in Baru, Colombia. And I stayed. I've been twice. I stayed at the Sofitel, not to be too fancy. And this is right on the Caribbean, and I have to tell you, the water there was as warm as any like non-heated, non like artificially heated body of water I've ever been in. I mean, it was like kind of bizarre how comfortable it was because Ocean City, in my mind, the water is always cold. It's never
Yeah.
really
Right. Yeah.
never really hot.
Yeah.
But this is not the case in Baru. It feels like you are in, like it is like a heated ocean just for you. Um, and these beautiful white sands. And this is about an hour from Cartagena. So you fly into Cartagena. Cartagena has beaches and, but it's much more like Ocean City vibes, beaches in front of massive hotels. But, you go out to Baru, it takes about an hour by car or by boat. And it's a whole other kind of calm, private world that is just absolutely kind of magical and lovely. And this is not the kind of obviously a quick easy vacation. This is more like anniversary or fancy sort of like vacation. But unbelievably beautiful, great place to do snorkeling, boat rides. To spend the day on the beach. That these beautiful beaches with these warm waters, and it's definitely a place you plan in advance. You don't just show up to Baru and expect to find a beach that you can be at. You got to book a hotel in advance and figure out your travel logistics. But if you're looking for that sort of ultimate peaceful luxury beach vacation, I think that you really can't do better than Baru.
Sounds great. And is it mostly locals, tourists? What's the mix you get?
It's almost all tourists, just because of the hotel situation. It's and it takes so long to get to. Like, it takes about an hour to get there. Outside of the main Cartagena beaches where the locals go because it's just a bunch of public beaches there.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's really lovely, and I'll post a few pictures of all these different beaches, but certainly Baru, Colombia. I won't name her, but one of our colleagues at Blue State emailed me, and she was like, looking to go to Colombia. We want to do a beach. Do you have a recommendation? I sent her this, and I got the longest letter of thank you
Oh, wow.
because she was just blown away by how incredible
See, we got to
the
start
whole
charging
experience
for
was.
those services, Ryan.
I know, but yeah. So this is what I tell. This is literally when people ask me. This is what I tell them. So this
Well,
is
that's
my.
why we have a
Yeah,
podcast. We
I
we
know.
we we like to offer our knowledge. So
Yeah.
my second one is it is similar in that it is not like a locals beach. It's directly next to a major tourist destination. So this is On Bang Beach in Hoi An, Vietnam. And Hoi An itself is a UNESCO World Heritage Site, and they have this classic like old town, this like ancient town that is preserved there. And you go there to explore that, and these like really there's great food, and it's really picturesque and beautiful. Um, and they're also famous, by the way, I should mention, for tailored clothing there. So if you want to have a suit made, Ryan, I know we did a whole series where for 6 months you were having a suit made. If you
Oh,
go to Hoi An, this is the place to get your suit made in town. Um, and I should say the architecture that you get like a take on in this town stretches from the 15th to the 19th century, and it's like a port town. So there's a lot of a great history of commerce and trade there that you can learn about. It's very interesting. And
my good friend Stuart Sanford, who's an artist, just spent 2 months in Vietnam at an art retreat, and
oh my gosh,
he
wow.
went all over the country. And oh my God, the photos are amazing. I mean, Vietnam looks just absolutely incredible.
It's a beautiful and just super fascinating place to go. I've actually been thinking we should do more Vietnam episodes. And when you're in Hoi An for the cultural side of things, just 2 miles away is a beautiful beach called Onbang Beach. And so a lot of people will do a day or two of tourists, cultural stuff, and then go out to the beach. And that's what we did. So, as I say, it's kind of in my mode of travel where if there happens to be a beach nearby, especially within a bigger trip. I mean, our Vietnam trip was, 2 weeks in the country. So it's nice to have a quieter day to sort of recover. And this was the absolute ideal way to do that. It was a gorgeous, super relaxed beach town with just beautiful stretches of sand. And it's like you were talking about, because we're traveling all the way from the US, we didn't bring all our beach gear, but you can basically rent your beach chair, your beach umbrella. There's food and drink that's right abutting the sand, so you can kind of keep your whole day just going back and forth. And the swimming, I remember, was wonderful, just beautiful, warm. Um, I will say here, though, that Vietnam does have a typhoon season.
Oh,
So you really don't want to go to this beach in October or November, which is, you don't know if you're actually going to be able to get out. And if you are, the ocean's going to be really rough. But during the dry season there, which is February to July, so a good stretch of the year, that's when this is going to be a great, relaxing respite from what is probably a very adventurous location for Americans.
that sounds great. I wanted to include a Thai beach that I'd been to, but it didn't make the list. But I think we should. I would love to do vastly more travel in Asia. It's just so far away, Kieran.
Yeah, well, I mean, Catherine, I mean, it is far away, which means you need a long time once you get
Yeah.
there. Just to even like get over the jet lag is hard. Yeah, I traveled quite a bit in Asia for a few years there, and I've definitely been missing that. I had a good friend who just recently did a big Korea trip, and I was just really following it closely and thinking about how fun it would be to go to Seoul. By the way, we have been neglectful in not recommending sunscreen, which for two very pale fellows, that's an oversight. But I also do want to note you're going to want bug spray in Hoi An. There's mosquitoes, and you're in kind of a tropical environment there. So in this case, if you're checking a bag, I would recommend put some DEET bug spray in there so you can enjoy your time on the beach.
Yeah, and one thing I recommend also, like if you're traveling to Colombia or Mexico, if you have a check bag, to bring your own sunscreen because sometimes the sunscreen they sell is just too weak for us pale skinned
Mm.
folks. A 25 doesn't do much to protect me from the sun. I need to go all in.
Oh yeah, you need like 178.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, once friends and I were traveling in France, and we went to Montpellier, France, which is a beach town, and we went to the beach, and and this was when I was like really fresh out of college and had absolutely no money, and you had to rent an umbrella for what I'm sure was like $5 a day, and I judged it too expensive, and the purveyor was forced an umbrella on me for free and said, "You need this because of my skin tone."
I mean, you would have burnt, you would have like lit on
Yes,
fire.
that person was right, and if I ever get back there, I'll tip very well.
Yeah, our people's natural. Our ancestors lived in caves, Kieran, and they didn't get
Yeah,
out
we're
much.
we're bog people, Irish bog people. Now, Ryan, you mentioned Mexican beaches. Is that where you're taking us for the third?
Yeah, so there's a lot of great beaches in Mexico. Puerto Escondido is really beautiful and isolated. Cancun is where people go if they want to party and stay in a nice hotel. But I want to bring us back to a place where the last time I went, was a little more dramatic than usual. But I absolutely love the beach, and that is Puerto Vallarta, Mexico. Puerto Vallarta is a beach town that has mountains. It's got the kind of old school cobblestone streets and that kind of like real that old Mexican beach town charm while still being a really big city. Um, and it was funny when you talked about Coffin Beach. The main beach in Puerto Vallarta is Los Muertos Beach, so the
Mm.
dead beach.
Yeah, yeah. We could pair it up with a visit to Coffin's
Yeah,
Beach.
yeah. And this is the real classic PVR beach scene. You've basically got, I would say, 25 beach clubs in a row. And beach clubs are great because you show up, make a reservation a couple days before you show up. You've got everything set up for you, and then they're going to serve you lunch and whatever you need throughout the day. And my favorite beach club there is Sapphire, but there are, like I said, there are so many different ones. You can really just sort of spend your first day kind of picking out where you wanna sit. And then there's the classic Malecon experience, with all the restaurants and people selling, souvenirs and trinkets. And the Malecon is it's not while it is a boardwalk, it manages to have entirely different vibes than say the Mid Atlantic boardwalks that we were talking about. But yeah, I really love it. I'm actually headed back there um, in a month or so. So
Oh my
maybe
gosh. Wow. After your dramatic last visit there, that's incredible. You're getting right back to it.
yeah. Well, it's just a very pleasant place to spend a long weekend, and you get the benefit of having all that great Mexican food around you. So it's hard to resist. And unlike Cancun, where you go to Cancun, you're very sequestered in your hotel. Puerto Vallarta is a city that's got a lot of lovely restaurants and things to do that are sort of outside of just the beach. So, um, definitely, recommend it. Obviously, it's got a great kind of gay beaches, but also, most of the beaches are for everybody. All the beaches are for everybody. Um, and then there's just like a lot of little cute day trips you can take. I've had some great snorkeling days there as well. Where you get on a boat and they take you out and you can kind of see some exotic fish and things like that. So lovely place, and I certainly recommend people if you're thinking about Mexico, look outside of Cancun and Tulum. Playa del Carmen is another lovely little beach town in Mexico. So I just encourage folks to kind of try to get off the beaten path if they can a little bit.
Yeah, boy, I'm just really, as we're like going down this beach walk here, I'm just realizing there's a lot more beaches we need to talk about. We might need, maybe every year we'll do a follow up to this one where we talk about others. Cause, there's just Virginia Beach, the Outer Banks, Miami, we're not talking about a single California beach. Plus, you're right. I mean, just the extent of Mexican beaches that we could cover. I'm excited about follow ups to this one.
Yeah, people should reach out and let us know what's your favorite like kind of secret-ish beach location.
What and
Yeah.
where? How would they let us know that?
They could do that over the old Instagram OOO podcast, or they could email us at outofofficepod@gmail.com.
Oh, it's clever that it's two different things for people to
Marketing
remember.
marketing
Very good. Yeah,
geniuses. Yeah, yeah.
very good. Well, Ryan, my third and final. I'm not going to say I put it in here as a joke, but I'm going to I'm going to recommend. I'm going to make sure that I set expectations, because when you're talking about beautiful Mexican beaches, you're setting a certain bar. So this is Brighton Beach in England. Have you ever been to Brighton, Ryan?
No, but when I first saw this, I thought you were recommending Brighton Beach in New York, and I'm like, really?
The like Russian neighborhood in New York.
Yeah.
No, this is Brighton, England. And when you live in London, inevitably people are talking about Brighton. And I heard about it for a long, long time before I was finally like, okay, I've got to like take a day trip and go here, because there's all this buzz about Brighton and I don't know what it's about. And you hear about it as if it's a beach town. And when you grow up in New England, or the anywhere on the East Coast, I think you have a certain expectation of what it means to have a beach. Brighton is sort of England does have nice beaches, I'll say. If you go like 4 hours from London, you can go to an area called Cornwall, and there they have beautiful, like sandy beaches, and that's like the real place to go for beautiful British beaches. But Brighton is very close. It's like a quick hour and a half train ride. And so it's sort of like London on the sea is how they consider it. And a lot of people flock from London to Brighton. And it has food and clubbiness, and it has like fun shopping district, and it has this stretch of beach. But the beach they call it pebbly. Okay. But what I'm telling you, this is basically like give it a few millennia and then the ocean will have broken up these rocks that are their beach. But you get a lot of British people who are acting as if this is sand, even though it's like essentially fist-sized rocks all over the shore. And so they'll, it'll be like overcast. It'll be like 55 degrees and gloomy, and people are out there putting their blankets out and they're having picnics on the rocks, and like sitting on the rocks really hurts. And I just found the whole thing to be very charming and very British. That this is what cuts it for a beach if you can't make it all the way to Cornwall because it's so much further away.
Uh, now Brighton's interesting though, Kieran, because it is considered probably the first commercial like seaside resort in the UK.
Yes. So it has a great history as a seaside attraction, and this is where I think it actually is a little bit of an answer to all of those like fun, kitschy attractions that Ocean City Boardwalk has. Brighton has that sort of like garish fun stuff. And you can see it all on what's called the Brighton Palace Pier, which is this huge pier that jets out way into the ocean. You can see it from all directions on the beach. And it's got fair rides and like arcade games. And it's like a big carnival on the beach. And of course, you can get classic British fish and chips. I mean, this is if you're spending time on the rocks and you need a break, you kind of go to the pier. And then interestingly, there's also another pier called the Old West Pier that dates back to the time that you're talking about when it was like being established as this seaside attraction. And they've left the ruins of it to just kind of molder away in this really, very evocative, beautiful way. And so everyone comes back with a lot of pictures of this hulking pier that's been wasting away for decades.
So I'm going to guess when you were in Brighton, you didn't go to the famous nude beach.
No, I didn't know about the nude portion, actually.
Yeah, it was the very first ever public nude beach in
The
in the
only
UK.
the only thing I can think that would be less comfortable than sitting on these rocks would be doing it not in pants or a bathing suit.
You wear pants to the beach, Kieran?
Ryan, it's England. It's cold. It's like, yeah, you might want to wear pants, even though their summers are beautiful. And the summers at Brighton can be really lovely. It's well worth a day trip. And there's one other, there is a cultural place I would recommend you visit if you do make your way to Brighton. It's called the Royal Pavilion. And to say it's a pavilion is kind of a silly name because it's a royal palace. It's a former royal residence that the royal family had in Brighton. It's since been sold to the town and then opened as a historic landmark, a historic house you can visit. And it is extraordinary. In fact, I will earmark this for a future episode. But what's really interesting about it is it's like this mishmash of crazy architecture. They take Indian architecture and mix it with like Gothic and mix it with Chinese influences. And it's like no other building I've ever seen. And of course, because it's a royal palace, extremely opulent throughout. So, Brighton's fun because there's nothing quite like it. And there's a ton to do in the town if the weather's not great. And it's fun to go out and see like what is the British version of this seaside attraction.
Now that sounds fun. I don't think I've ever been to a UK beach. It's funny. I asked GPT if there were any movies set in Brighton Beach, England, and it said Brighton Beach Memoirs by Neil Simon, which is not set in Brighton Beach, it's England. It's set in the New York one. So, a warning: if you're planning your travel using ChatGPT, it doesn't know the difference between New York and England.
Okay,
so.
that is a a very good. Our podcast is safe for another week.
Yes.
All right,
well,
Ryan.
Gosh, this was
super
this
fun.
was a lot of fun. Super
Yeah.
fun. So many beaches. Again, so many we didn't mention. But folks should go out, get some sun. You need that vitamin D. Wear your sunscreen, and if you're in a place where you need the bug spray, bring that too. And enjoy your summer, folks.
And now it's time for the last stop.
The last stop.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is the last stop on this train. Everyone, please leave the train.
All right, Ryan, we're here in the last segment of the show, the final segment of the show. It's my favorite segment. It's your favorite segment. It's popularly known as the People's segment. That's what everybody's out there calling it that, because it's where we come together as a community. And gosh, we need each other in these hard times. And particularly, we need to share. Particularly, you and I need to share. We have the microphone. So we each bring one thing to the community that it can be anything. I mean, it can be a memory, it can be a recommendation, could be an article, could be a factoid. But importantly, it must do one thing. It must inspire the spirit of wanderlust within us, even during the workaday week. So, Ryan, I'm going to ask you, as I ask you every episode, do you have a last stop this week?
I do, Kieran. As you know, I've been Pope maxing lately.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
we're both really going hard on the Pope.
Yeah. And the Pope has gotten me to literally last week sit down and watch a 1 hour EWTN, which is the Catholic channel, documentary on Pope Leo's time in Peru. And it was absolutely fascinating to learn. I mean, he spent years and years in Peru. I didn't know he's actually a Peruvian citizen.
Oh yes,
At
yes.
this point. And it goes over the various places that he lived and worked while he was in Peru before he became the bishop of Chicalo, which is dangerously close to Chicago. But I thought it was it's a lovely documentary if you're interested in Pope Leo and sort of exploring some parts of Peru that I've never been to. I was telling David that I think we need to go to Peru and do basically a Pope Leo tour and hit up some of these cities that he was in. But I've linked in the show notes to the YouTube, and it's got the entire documentary there. You can watch it. It's about an hour, and definitely interesting to see all that great footage and to hear from people who've known Pope Leo since he was before he was Pope Leo, since he was a guy in his 20s who was doing missionary work in Peru, and just interesting stuff. And Peru obviously is a favorite of both of ours. So definitely recommend that, and got me thinking about maybe making a trip to Peru at some point in the near future. Since hey, I'm pretty close to it right now.
Yeah, very cool.
Did you bring a last stop to us?
I did indeed. So I'm always keeping my eye out for additions to my Secret Boston book, because for the next edition, I got to find 10 new places to feature. And this won't be a new place, but it's new information on a place that I highlight already, which is there was big news this week from Harvard. Harvard is doing what a lot of these older universities are doing, which is trying to bring to the light the history of slavery associated with the university. And so Georgetown sort of led the way on this, and keeping it in the Catholic realm. And Harvard has poured a lot of resources into trying to figure out, how many slaves were connected to the university, either directly, meaning they live in what is currently the campus, including some buildings that are still standing, serving presidents, professors, or that the wealth that was extracted from their labor went to the university. And again, when you're dealing with an institution this old, it was founded in 1636. So you've got 1636 all the way through the Civil War. This history runs deep. And it is very different. I assume probably the same for you as for me, Ryan, that when we were growing up, we really got this like story of just slavery in the South. And boy, oh boy, is that unraveling as more is becoming known. And so Harvard put out they have this big public database that researchers are filling up as they uncover more ties to slavery. And yesterday, they released that the university has identified that top leaders of the university enslaved more than 1,600 people, which is really an extraordinary expansion of the research. And in my book, I do highlight a couple places on campus where they're starting to put up acknowledgments of this, including the names and stories that they, as much as they can tell them. There's a cemetery very close to the university that has the oldest known gravestone of a slave in the North. And this is like just an update on this project. It's ongoing. And this database is where people can publicly find out more and more. And I expect we will see the university bring this new history to life on campus in different ways. So I'll be keeping an eye out for that.
That is super interesting. Well, Kieran, I think we've gotten a lot of sun. I gotta, get inside.
You're looking a little
handy.
red.
Yeah. But until next time, I'm Ryan Davis.
And I'm Kieran Schmidt.
And this is Out of Office, a travel podcast.
This seat taken. What kind of beach towel do you go for, Ryan? All single color? Or do you go for a silly one?
I like a silly local one. Absolutely.
Like a Porky Pig?
Sure. If I'm in a Porky Pig area, I guess Brighton.